Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for having me here to talk about this leadership opportunity as Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor. It's really a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the warm Jayhawk welcome, the KU blue skies you all have arranged for me. When I arrived yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit the Student Union and the Sabatini Center and got to talk with students and faculty and staff. And I had a great time at the Fog last night watching KU dismantle K-State. So that was a lot of fun. I had a couple nephews in the audience too. I really enjoyed the opportunity to be here. My aspiration is to be a transformative and enabling provost. We're really at a crossroads in terms of education nationally. The role of education and research is being questioned, coming under increasing scrutiny. State budgets are very tight, as you know. And in general, these are very, very hard times for public institutions, especially of higher education. But KU is very, very fortunate to have a strong community and sense of pride, a rich tradition of excellence, and a very well-respected chancellor and administration. KU, this university, provides an excellent educational value. It trains future leaders, and the work done here is crucial to continue that cycle of innovation and imagination and impact that will enable a bright future for Kansas, the nation, and the world. A key aspect of KU's mission is its comprehensive nature. By that I mean it's not focused narrowly on any one set of disciplines, but it embraces the full spectrum of the fine arts, humanities, social sciences, natural and physical sciences, engineering, the full breadth of professional schools and health fields. And I particularly want to emphasize my conviction that the fine arts, humanities, and social sciences are the heart and soul of a great university. They provide that enriched environment that's imbued with intellectual energy and inquiry that, like a magnet, draws creative people of all disciplines and backgrounds to the university. And I would be honored to apply my experience and capabilities to partner with Chancellor Gray-Little and the entire KU community so that together KU can aspire to and achieve new levels of excellence, and so that KU can continue to fulfill its role as an outstanding public flagship university. The main goal I'd like to accomplish today is three things. First of all, who I am as a person, my core values, what I believe in, and my vision for building excellence through collaboration. And hopefully we can talk about details in the question and answer period. So let me start, being a Southerner, by talking about who I am, and who I am involves my family. So I'll tell you about them. Mabel alluded to it, but I've been married for 27 and a half years to a wonderful woman I met while I was a grad student at Stanford. My wife, Sharon, is the nicest person I know. She also helped me write my talking points for today. Yeah. It wasn't there when I left, but it was handwritten in. But Sharon is a true partner in the full sense of the word. And best of all, she's a Jayhawk. Just about her whole family and extended family have gone to KU. She's a graduate in pharmacy. We have a nephew here who's currently on the dean's list. And when you marry into a family of Jayhawks, you become a Jayhawk too. I think it was one of our marriage vows, if I remember right. So I'm a diehard Jayhawk fan. Sharon and I have three wonderful kids. Sharon's my wife. Jillian, Scott, and Audrey. Kansas is really their second home. All three have participated in very significant study abroad activities, which has been a life-changing experience for them, and it's made me realize through their experiences and mine, it's just how much I value, promote, and support that as an important component of a college education. We're just very, very proud of all three kids, mainly because they're just very decent and caring people. My personal background is that I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, also known as Who Dat Nation for you Saints fans. I'm the family genealogist, so in fact in my research I discovered that my great-great-great-grandparents came by boat from France to New Orleans 166 years ago, which I think was the first year the Saints played in the NFL. No, not really, it just seems that way. I'm one of 6 kids. My parents both passed away this past decade. My dad was trained as an electrical engineer and a physicist, and my mom was trained as a social worker. We're just stellar people who played a major role in my life and really taught me the value of dedication and caring. I was a math major at the University of Notre Dame. I graduated with highest honors in 1977. In 1980, I received my PhD in computer science at Stanford University under Don Knuth. And Don is a legend in the field, just an incredible role model, accomplished musician, and he deserves the credit more than anyone for the founding of computer science as a rigorous academic discipline. Starting in 1980, I spent 12 and a half years on the faculty at Brown University, just a great place, wonderful people where I was able to take part in leadership opportunities, especially in the graduate program, and really develop my skills and abilities as an academic. And then in 1993, my family and I had the opportunity to move to Duke University. I was there 9.5 years as a distinguished professor. I also served as chair of the Department of Computer Science. And that was just a wonderful experience. Working together, helping transform the department from a very fractured top-down environment to one that was truly inclusive, very vibrant, drew people in, and as a result, it just zoomed up into the rankings, well into the top 20. We made 15 faculty hires while I was department chair. Every single hire was a #1 pick in his or her search. It was just a great place. I got interested more and more in administration, and so I decided to complement my practical experience with an MBA at Duke, which was truly an enriching experience that has been very helpful in all my various roles. I was recruited to Purdue as Dean of the College of Science, and I served there 6 years. Purdue is a large public land-grant institution of 39,000 students. Our college taught a quarter of Purdue's 1 million student credit hours each year. Purdue had phenomenal success in the last decade, and I had the privilege to participate in and contribute to that success, especially leading strategic planning efforts and building a dual focus of excellence. Excellence not only in the disciplines, but also in multidisciplinary collaborations. You have to forgive me, I'm a little hoarse from last night. And also leading the development of a comprehensive core curriculum and set of outcomes. So I went to Texas A&M as provost and executive vice president for academics in August of 2008. A&M is a public land-grant institution of 49,000 students. Like my previous ones, a great place, wonderful people who made my family and me feel at home. I led the campus-wide development of a major university initiative, the Academic Master Plan. The Academic Master Plan is the university's strategic plan at Texas A&M, and it's designed to drive A&M to top 10 status among public institutions by the year 2020. I had the pleasure to serve as provost under President Elsa Morano, who hired me in a national search. She's someone I very, very deeply respect and enjoyed working with. And as many of you know, President Morano resigned this past June 15th, as did my fellow executive vice president. I realized, being very closely aligned with President Morano as part of her inner circle, that it was the right thing to do to let the new administration build its own team. However, we were at a particularly critical stage of the Academic Master Plan, and that Academic Master Plan was a top priority for both the new president and me. And so I stayed on as provost until the end of July to bring to fruition the extensive work that we had done And I hope we get the chance to talk about those details and the unique aspects of the academic master plan during the question period. So I've had the privilege to serve as in executive leadership positions at multiple universities, both private and public. That experience gives me the entrepreneurial background to be resourceful, flexible, and offer new ideas. And I especially value the opportunity to serve at public land-grant institutions where I've really been instilled with a deep commitment not just to educate and innovate, but to do so for the public good and to benefit society. That background, those experiences, my family, all have shaped my core values, what I believe in. Everything I do is grounded on those core values. First and foremost is personal integrity, holding myself to the highest standards of ethics. Secondly is shared governance, communication, transparency, mutual respect. They're the foundation of a truly vibrant university environment. Third, my role as an administrator is to help people succeed and to empower others. Fourth is academic quality. Focus on that as a driver of what I do. Fifth is building multidisciplinary and diverse environments, helping build a welcoming environment for all where we benefit from a diversity of ideas, ethnicities, nationalities, gender, sexual orientation, disabilities, cultures, areas of expertise, where we learn to work together to maximum effect. And then finally, 6 is openness to change. Knowing how to lead institutions forward, always looking to be better, but with full respect for the traditions of the institution. And I combine those 6 core values with a positive can-do attitude. I'm fully convinced, based on my experience, that we can do anything we set our minds to do and accomplish it and be very successful. And finally, my administrative philosophy really focuses on building academic excellence through collaborations. In a sense, that focus is a natural outgrowth of my academic interests. As a computer scientist, my research interests are in the area of algorithms. We're going to have a quiz at the end of this. So, an algorithm is just a recipe for solving a problem. It's a way of finding a solution. And in particular, I work on algorithms that deal with massive amounts of data. And what could be more useful to an academic, an administrator, than to be able to decipher massive amounts of data and solve problems and find solutions? I identify closely with the pillars of great public institutions, which include educational excellence and global perspectives, enhancing and broadening research, and developing statewide partnerships and engagement. I've worked on these goals in a variety of innovative ways. I've led the development and implementation of inclusive strategic plans at multiple institutions, at Duke, at Purdue, at Texas A&M. We've focused on empowering and developing people and diversity. We've developed a major new core curriculum and outcomes. We've created an innovative faculty hiring initiative. We were successful in major new research funding initiatives. At Texas A&M, we have an NIH facility construction grant. At Purdue, the Science Education Coalesce Group, one of our priority groups, led to major grants in the science of learning. We landed the state iSTEM teacher partnership, which is a major K-12 effort. I started the development of a project that ended up with $25 million of funding from NSF for a science and technology center, the first ever at Purdue on the science of information. We were awarded a $20 million DOE project on bioenergy, and we landed an NSF advanced grant, which are very hard to get, to enhance diversity. And we build vibrant and mutually beneficial corporate partnerships. I have much experience supporting entrepreneurship. I was involved in truly a campus-wide team effort that resulted in a major new biomedical institute endowed with $100 million. I've enjoyed the opportunity to lead major fundraising initiatives and to enlist the support of alumni and friends. I focus on being a good listener. At Texas A&M, I attended over 50 departmental faculty meetings, and I attended staff meetings at several other units. I've worked hard to develop a leadership style that draws people in, that encourages ideas and open dialogue, that promotes academic freedom, and that helps form vibrant partnerships. I look forward to talking about many of these activities as they come up, maybe in the question period, especially how and why we did the things we did and the outcomes that resulted. I'm confident, based upon my experience, that we as a community can accomplish anything we set our minds to and help lead KU to new levels of excellence. I would be honored to be your provost here, so thank you all for having me. So, questions? Well, it was good seeing you all. Thanks for coming. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Rooney, and I'm in the Vice Provost for Finance Office. And I'm very intrigued by your background as a computer scientist and the algorithms. And obviously, algorithms have become very famous for many people through all that's happened in the financial breakdown and economic crisis.
Which I had nothing to do with.
I know. I have an MBA from the University of Chicago, and my MBA, I earned it about the time the algorithms were starting to take over in the financial world. And I was wondering if you could comment not just on what has happened in the financial and economic crisis, but the humanistic perspective that we have allowed to imbalance our financial and economic thinking, and the research universities and KU just as a university and having to deal with all the economic crisis. Where did we lose our way in some of our thinking, and how it has impacted all of us in many, many ways, both personally and professionally, and how it might start swinging back, the pendulum might start swinging back. Any comments on that?
Well, to me, it just drives home how crucially important it is to have outstanding comprehensive universities where you're not just focused on a particular aspect, in this case, making financial deals and opportunities for profits in that sector, but really understanding the whole broad implication of what this is doing for the country, the ethical implications. That's what really draws me to a university like KU. If you've read the books of Richard Florida, he's written several. His most famous is probably called The Rise of the Creative Class. He studied the leading entrepreneurial sectors of the country, and in each case he traces their success to the presence of vibrant, comprehensive universities, basically that draw people in. They're the magnets I talked about that bring people of all backgrounds, technical, entrepreneurial, of all backgrounds to an institution. And it's that institution that can provide that well-balanced education that hopefully will, provide leaders of the future that have a grander sense of what they need to do. So I think it's an instance of just being blinded to one particular goal and losing sight of the big picture. And that it just drives home to me how important a university like KU is because of the broad education it provides. Yep.
Hi, I'm Lynn Jageman, Sociology and Jewish Studies. And I want to ask you for some specifics. Mm-hmm. So you said we'd get to talk about it in the question and answers.
Sure, okay.
What do you think are the biggest issues facing KU right now? And what would you, as provost, take as your first, second, third steps to fix them?
Okay. Okay, all in the first day on the job, right? I think...
Before you get here.
Definitely. I think there are great opportunities here. Sometimes when you're faced with challenges, financial challenges in this case, it brings forward, the best in you. It leads you to examine and try things that you might not have done otherwise. And in particular, with the new administration, you've got a great new chancellor. It's an opportunity to re-look at what this university can really do and how it can move forward. In other words, I'm talking about my favorite activity, strategic planning. And if done in the right way, which is my whole focus, this is a community building exercise that brings together people to come forward with the best ideas and to really figure out, of course, what KU is good at, what we need to do, what we always need to value, but what are the few special opportunities where we can make a really significant difference in moving the institution forward. And then that will lead to further opportunities down the road and so forth. So I'm very, very keen on that. We're about to start a new campaign. Nothing could be more important to a successful fundraising campaign than a vibrant strategic plan that really has a lot of buzz to it, that people are excited about because it's going to be an opportunity to do some pretty innovative things. That will help enable, in turn, the success of the fundraising effort, which is needed to implement that strategic plan. There are really, I think, good advances that were made by a number of institutions on campus, and we're poised to build some great collaborations, linking in with the medical school even more closely than ever. The big issues that are facing mankind are truly cutting across campus, and they require deep expertise from all across the academy. And it's great opportunities to build those synergies and make KU even a bigger place by making the most of its parts, by building those collaborations. So I really think it's an opportunity to move forward with some important initiatives that come out of this strategic planning process. And in 10 years from now, in 20 years, there will be a fundamental shift in institutions of higher learning between those who have taken a futuristic look and have moved forward and those that have been more staid and have fallen behind. And KU is in a great place to be in that first category. Yep, you have a question over there. Okay.
Susan Twombly, School of Education. So you were familiar with KU before you came here.
Yep.
In your brief time here, what has surprised you most?
I guess, I knew that the state budget was uncertain and that there were obvious concerns, but I think what, I don't know if surprised me, but certainly reaffirmed and excited me is just the level of spirit and faith and just pride people have in being at KU, which is, I think, just a great quality, and it speaks volumes to how this institution is going to come together to move forward and continue moving forward as it has in recent years. So, and the basketball team looks pretty good. If no one goes to the NBA, they'll be in good shape next year. But it's really that spirit that it's a can-do attitude, I think, that is very reassuring. Yep.
Susan Harris, English Department and the Hall Center. You've spoken about raising money for the sciences and for IT, and it all sounds really impressive. I'm a little envious. Do you have any experience raising money specifically for humanities and the arts? And do you have any ideas about how to restore humanities and the arts to parity with the sciences?
Sure. Well, the great majority of my responsibilities were fundraising, as Dean of Science, so I would focus on the science. So, as much as I would have liked to to fundraise in the humanities. That was not my focus, but I was involved in several initiatives that also did involve raising funds. So, for example, one of the things we proposed in my college was what became known as the Science Journalism Laureates Series. And this came out of an idea of a member of my Dean's Leadership Council, Moira Gunn, who's a correspondent on NPR, has a weekly show called Tech Nation and Biotech Nation. And she had the idea of celebrating the role of science journalists and educators, communicators, because they're a vanishing breed. If you go back 15 years, most major newspapers had a science section on a regular basis. Almost none now have that. And the issues we're facing in the national arena just really bring to the fore the problems of misinformation. And we as a country are dealing with major issues where the public is not often informed or is misinformed, and we have a responsibility to get information out there. So we were really motivated to help bolster their role and to celebrate their capabilities. The very best in the world went through this program, and it was a great program. There would be this panel session where they discuss some really probing issues of ethics and some of the current issues in science, for example. They met in all groups all throughout the campus, and it really energized the campus. Plus, it helped us convey to them some of the things we were doing so they could write about us. But it was a program that went very well, and then essentially it became a university program, and it's now elevated to that level, so they're about to start their 4th year coming up. So that involved fundraising because we had to go out and get support to provide the funds to bring in these people and things like that. At A&M, we worked to move forward the new Arts and Humanities building, which had been put on the back burner for a while. But that was not a fundraising effort. That was really one of trying to just carve out funds so that could go forward. But I believe passionately in fundraising. To me, it's really, after a day where you're just hearing about this problem or that problem, it's really nice to go talk with alums whose only goal is to tell you how much they appreciate what the university did for them and how much it meant for their lives, and they give you money too. So that is something I would very much like to help the deans in their fundraising roles. The new campaign is going to be a major one, and getting the word out about how KU is special and has a major role to play is really something I enjoy doing and would hope to take part in for the humanities and arts. Yeah.
Becca Peterson, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. You mentioned statewide partnerships and engagement as one of your pillars or focal points. I wonder if you could give us some specifics on how you would engage the faculty and encourage them, as well as the staff and our students, to step outside the classrooms, their offices and laboratories, and help you achieve that type of engagement. What specifically would you challenge them, and how would you motivate them to join you?
Sure. Well, one thing I believe in is, first of all, academic excellence. I think it's very important to really have faculty, for example, go through the promotion process where academic excellence is at the fore. I also think that there are multiple ways of demonstrating academic excellence in scholarship. So to me, scholarship does not equate with traditional research. I came through the culture of conference and journal publications. I'm very proud of what I've done. I enjoy doing it. There's also tremendous opportunities for imagination, creativity in non-traditional ways that have scholarly labels associated with them, and that is through what I would call scholarly engagement, which is really the third leg of a great public institution. And it's much more than the terms often used of service, outreach, or extension, which are important. But by the term engagement, it's more of a two-way partnership. And it has a scholarly component. Developing novel pedagogies and working with school corporations to fundamentally make improvements on how education is delivered to elevate our middle and high schools. Nothing could be more important to the future of this country, where we leave a significant fraction of people behind who never graduate from high school. Developing innovative community partnerships and projects. Entrepreneurship. I mean, taking something from the laboratory or faculty member's office and transitioning that idea to a new startup company or some other venue where you're creating a product, you're impacting society. There are amazing obstacles and ways for innovation of making that successful. Patents, for example, are a way of documenting advances in that area. So the important thing is to document scholarship, but I am someone who is in favor of broadening the definition of scholarship so that we reward people for what they're best at and for their accomplishments, which to me is very important. Now this is, something that is a culture change. It will happen gradually, more and more, but when it's done to high standards, which is the key, it gains that respect. And when we reward that, as we should, faculty members see it just as an avenue for creativity. And faculty members live by the opportunity to create, to be proud of what they do and to contribute. And that I think is the key. Okay, we have two people, so we'll closest to the mic first. Oh.
I'm Sarah Lynn Rees-Hardy. I'm the director of the Art Museum at KU. You speak about tradition in a very loving way, and you also, I think, hint at its pervasiveness. You also are talking a lot about innovation. Could you share with us a project that embodies both those beliefs? A project that would be in some way a bellwether for the kinds of things that would incorporate both deeply held traditional beliefs as well as the bias for change and innovation.
Okay, sure. Well, universities are probably the most stable institutions in the world. They've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It also means that essentially the reason they're so stable is they're fairly conservative, slow to change. And I think the real opportunity we have now, especially when you're in stressed environments, budget-wise, is to look at new ways to do things. So one example is a program we developed called Excellence in Hiring. And in here, we're getting at one of the primary things we do to build excellence in an academic institution, and that is to bring excellent people to that institution, to hire the very best, and to retain them. So I was talking with the chair of my Dean's Leadership Council, who has a company that he formed that specializes in hiring, strategic planning for major corporations. And we were, just wondering, they have this elaborate process. He's really an academic at heart. He even publishes on his programs and the effect they've had. And we were wondering, would there be elements that from this very different corporate world would possibly apply in the academic setting to hire, say, junior faculty members, tenure track faculty? And the answer is yes, and it really made an amazing difference. So, for example, I can't describe the whole system. It's geared around this universe of 28 traits and trying to come to grips with what are the key 3 or 4 traits that make the real difference between the really top candidates and the stellar ones who are going to be the stars that you want to hire. but some of the basic elements are, first of all, you go through this process I can't describe. You have to hire me first to get that. But there's a way of getting at what those traits are for the search that you're talking about. And there are ways then, once you determine those traits, of how to ask questions to determine if someone really has those traits. But the key part is to first, you have to start with a large, diverse pool, number one. But instead of going from 300 applicants on paper to 4 candidates who were finalists and come to campus, instead you interject an intermediate stage, which is sort of like what you do in administrative searches. We had an airport interview. Well, instead by phone, you can have a conference call and talk to about 20 or 25 candidates. And in that hour, if you use this technique, focusing on the key traits, asking the right questions, it's amazing what you can find out from the candidates. And then when you invite the candidates to campus, they're all stars. They're all competitive. And you don't have that situation that I've experienced, and maybe you have, where in 5 minutes, you just know this is just not the right person. And we're wasting their time, they're wasting our time, and here's this other person that we're never even going to be able to talk with. And the neat thing is, of course, it brings the best hires to campus. And if you can hire better than other institutions, you have a competitive advantage, and you're going to move forward relatively. But the other very important thing is it makes for more diverse hires. They're very synergistic with one another. And if you think about it, because you're bringing 20 to 25 people in this intermediate stage for the phone interviews, you can now afford to talk with people who may have non-traditional backgrounds that you would never have maybe taken the risk to bring to campus if you had only 4 choices. And then, in many cases, they truly shine, and then they become finalists. They're very competitive, and many, as a result, are hired. So we did many things at Purdue. This is one thing. The department heads went along grudgingly. Any good scientist is very skeptical, and they were skeptical, but they tried it out. And 6 of the 7 departments that first year tried it out, and every single one came back saying, this is great, it helps us make better hires. We were hiring faculty at about double the rate that underrepresented groups were represented in the college. So the rate of hiring women, the rate of hiring underrepresented minorities was about double of the percentage that they were currently in the college. So we really helped increase those numbers. And at Texas A&M, I used this philosophy for some of the administrative hires. When I arrived, there were just all kinds of vacant positions, and I actually oversaw 8 dean and vice president searches. We made 8 great hires, and of those 8, 3 were women, 2 were African American, and 2 were Hispanic. So there are a lot of things that we can do in a smart way. If we do what we do in as smart a way as possible, we gain a competitive advantage. We're going to be better than the other institutions, and we can make a real difference for the future of KU. So, yeah. Oh, no, yeah.
Rick McMullen, Director of Research Computing. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your views on the role of information technology in the university, perhaps focusing on engagement in research and creative activity.
Sure. I have kind of a bias in favor of information technology myself. In a sense, I think that's really fortunately provided me a great background, because IT and computing, just the process of extracting knowledge from data is just something that permeates all disciplines and is a great linking point to different parts of campus. It's an area where information technology is opening doors in research. One of our landmark themes at Texas A&M is understanding in the digital age. It's the opportunities for collaboration are just immense, and that's the basis, in fact, for this Science and Technology Center that was just funded at $25 million on the science of information. Understanding how information permeates all disciplines and coming to grips with some of the tremendous challenges that result. I don't know if you know that when you hit the return key when you do a Google query, there's actually an auction that happens in that fraction of a second that determines the order of the sponsored links that are presented to you. And it's not just, who wants to pay the most money. It's a very sophisticated scheme based on game theory and the ideas of John Nash on what will be of most utility to you despite what they're paying. So even a company that's paying less per hit might get higher billing because what they're providing, their link is of more relevance to your query. Ultimately, that's going to be of greater long-term benefit to Google in terms of revenues. So there are great ways that IT is influencing and impacting the social sciences and humanities and the arts. There's a great, I just did an external review at Yale, and there's a great group that does a lot of work in Egypt and Egyptology, documenting and uncovering some of the antiquities in that particular region. And IT is also an area that bears responsibility that we have to be better stewards of how we spend the money. So I think there are great opportunities to save funds in the IT enterprise, where KU, I think, is highly decentralized. If purchases were done in a smarter way, not only would we save millions of dollars, but we would also, for free, have the capability of automatic downloads of security. And I don't know if you've ever had to deal with a breach of Social Security numbers being, exposed, but it is something where people can be criminally liable as a result. So you get that for free. And we did a study at Texas A&M where computers are everywhere now, so departments will have rooms housing clusters and servers that were not meant for that, but of course they have to be cooled. And because the building isn't set up for it, you have to cool the entire building, including weekends and nights. And we were spending well over $1 million, upwards of $2 million a year, just because of that reason. So there are opportunities where we can do better, save money, and help, I think, provide resources so people can take advantage of computing opportunities, because it's becoming so important for a variety of research efforts. Yep, question.
Susan Zabacek, Instructional Development and Support. You mentioned the university as a place that draws people in. Mm-hmm. I'd like you to turn that around just a little bit and talk about the university as a place that might provide educational opportunity or academic programming mm-hmm. to people who maybe aren't on the campus every day or at all mm-hmm. Through some kinds of distance learning opportunity.
Yep. Well, this university has the Edwards campus, and I know the topic of distance education has come up quite a bit, and we talked about it also with the deans. I don't know enough to say what I'm going to use the business word, what business model would make sense here that we could have self-sustaining operations that provide that. I think often there are some clear no-brainers where KU might have a particular area of expertise and develop a continuing education program or a master's program where the faculty can offer that and reach really anywhere in the country or even outside the country as a result. That has great opportunities, I think, because it's a clear net source of income, and it allows those units to do more. And if you couple that with a more enlightened administrative philosophy where you reward units for doing that, and you let them know up front that if you create this program and brings in new resources, you can share in those resources and not only fund the program, but then contribute to other parts of your unit too. I think that's very important. The other thing is that I like to think of distance education more than just in that setting, but in a broader sense where you talk about, say, computer-enhanced instruction, where we can even use it on campus to do what we do in a better way and more effectively, where you might deliver certain modules through videos and through IT. Maybe students could even take part of that in their dorm room, and then that frees you up to have more personal interactions in smaller settings so that the student experience for the same resources is actually improved. And I think that's a great opportunity to work on also. Yep, question here.
Hi, I'm Lori Reeser from Student Success. If you were provost, what would be your expectations and even aspirations for the undergraduate experience by the time they graduate? What would you want them to have accomplished or experienced both inside and outside the classroom?
Well, that was exactly the starting point at Purdue when we put together a core curriculum. We spent a year just determining what those outcomes should be. In fact, we wasted a year doing things the wrong way, so we started over and focused on the outcomes. And to give you, just a perspective and kind of understand where we were coming from. When I started at Purdue, the curriculum had been in place since 1962, which was when the college was put into its sort of current configuration. And nothing had changed in that other than a bunch of Band-Aids and special cases. I mean, there was literally no rhyme or reason. And I sat in my first faculty council meeting, which is our Senate in the college, and I could not believe the discussion. There was a discussion that went on for over a half an hour on whether we should change this one word in this course title from this word to this other word. I mean, I couldn't imagine anything less important, but it was like a life or death decision to people. And I was just kind of studying what was going on, not quite believing it, but being a glutton for things to do, I said, well, why don't we actually look at our curriculum? It's been 40 years, and I have this general rule of thumb: it's good to look at your curriculum at least once every 40 years. So we did that, and going past that year that really didn't work out, we started over and we focused on creating the outcomes, and we did it in a truly collaborative way. We had surveys, we had focus groups, we interviewed recent alums who are in the workforce, older alums who hire our recent alums, high school principals, as well as students and faculty and staff. And we also went to every department and asked the departments to determine what are the key outcomes that your graduates should have. And you would not believe how attended these faculty meetings were. I mean, everybody showed up to these faculty meetings. And what came out of each department was a remarkable consensus with all these other instruments we had too. So that put forward, as a result, by the end of the year, we spent the whole year doing this, but it was worth it because we had 6 outcomes that people rallied behind. First and foremost was depth of major. Before that was like the only thing, basically. But also what we call thinking like a scientist, critical thinking abilities. Knowing how to work together as teams and to collaborate. Having the experience of bringing multiple perspectives to bear on a common problem. So multidisciplinary abilities. And communication, both orally and writing. And then 6 was this more general experience that brought together ethics, diversity, and international experiences. So we had agreement on those 6. And the real key was that, first of all, we did this in this inclusive way so people understood it. And then we were able to say, well, this is what we're going to focus on. The college curriculum is going to focus on this. It's not to say other things aren't important. Departments can do whatever they want, but our college core curriculum is going to focus on this. And we could put away these side issues that you've probably been in discussions. You're talking about this, and someone raises this question. Well, what about? We just focused on the main criteria. So we were able to design options, not just courses, but also experiences in some cases, like study abroad or research with faculty or internships that would satisfy one or more of these objectives. And it's been a great success. We piloted it for a year to make sure that people were comfortable with it. The faculty voted very strongly to adopt it in spring of '07, and it was implemented that fall. It's been a very, very successful program. In fact, it even spurred the university, which has no core curriculum. So this, college curriculum is all there is at Purdue. It spurred the university and it is talking about creating a university curriculum. So it was very successful in that regard. And to me, looking at the key outcomes for students is very important. In fact, that was a key part of the Texas A&M Academic Master Plan, is determining those outcomes for undergraduates. We did it also for master's students and for doctoral students. Yep, question over here.
Susan Harris, again. You talk about doing a study like that. First of all, we have done at least 2 of these in the 8 years since we've been here, with very much the same
We had
kind.
5 at Texas A&M.
All right.
So, yeah.
And having participated in them and listening to you, I realized surveys, focus groups, talking to alums, having department input, tremendous input of time
Yep.
on all parties. We have a task force on research right now going, and one of the recommendations there is that in order to increase faculty's ability to do research, we should decrease the amount of time they spend in committees.
Right.
How can you square these 2 different demands?
It's really actually not hard, because if you can put together committees that will really accomplish something and then it will have an impact, you're going to replace the need to do the same thing over and over again. We had multiple groups at A&M that had put forward what outcomes should be for the undergraduate educational experience. They were all involving very intelligent people, but none was particularly charged with being the university word on the subject. They were groups of very intelligent people coming together. The committees were not regularly on a weekly basis going to the home units of each of the members and letting people know what's going on, getting input. They were multiple efforts, but all along one particular tack, basically. And they all differed somewhat. So if you want to go and do something major, like designing new curriculum like we did in the College of Science at Purdue and like can happen at Texas A&M, you have to make sure you have such a strong buy-in that there's no question that this is the starting point. And that just wasn't the case. So if you're not in that situation where you can say, this is what people really believe in, then you better start over at square one. And doing things in that truly inclusive way will allow you to get it done and to move forward and then really accomplish something. So I'm a very strong believer of not doing reports, putting them on the shelf and so forth. But that means that it's really important to do it the right way and to get inclusion and then make it be worth something and follow up on it. So look forward to more committees.
Chris Anderson, School of Business. You've only tangentially mentioned the university's role in an international context, international students, international scholarship, how a university from a relatively small and in some ways insular state like Kansas needs to reach out and move around. Could you talk a little bit more about international experiences that have influenced you as a scholar or a leader? Sure. And how they've framed what you think a provost should do at a university like Kansas? Sure.
Oh, yeah. I unfortunately never took the opportunity. I was an undergraduate at Notre Dame. It's the family thing on my side, KU on my wife's side. 9 of us went to Notre Dame on my side, dating back to Newt Rockne. But I never went abroad. But as a faculty member at Brown and then at Duke, we spent 2 full years abroad with the family, and it really just opens up a lot of perspectives. Being able to be immersed in another culture and just see that the U.S. is not the center of the universe, for example, is important in itself. And it really helps build, I think, a better understanding of the issues that are facing societies all across the world. And nothing really could be more important these days, not to mention that we're in a global economy and it's going to be important just for functioning. My kids, as I mentioned, my oldest daughter spent her junior fall semester in Australia. My son spent his in Cairo, Egypt. My daughter is just starting college, but she's already spent a full summer or 7 weeks in an immersion program in France where she wasn't allowed to speak English. And she's going to be in England this summer. It's just, truly a valuable experience. So when we did our curriculum design, for example, at Purdue, it became one of the options. Foreign language is important, but it's also important to make sure that you actually get abroad. So we wanted to give extra impetus to that. And we created exchange programs, for example, where students can just step in them so that the articulations are already worked out and you get credit for your major courses without any work. But you could also design your own if you'd like. So we doubled Purdue College of Science study abroad participation. It's something that I think is just very important. And exchange programs in particular are very cost effective because you're not paying any more going abroad. There is travel, of course. Maybe you can get scholarships. But it also means that an equal number of students are coming to the home institution, which is enriching the lives of everyone here in Lawrence. When I was at the Union yesterday, I just went up to a group of students and sat down. It turned out all 5 of them I think they were all freshmen, and they were all from Saudi Arabia, which, I had no idea that, there were significant groups of students coming here, which I think is important. So to me, that's very, very important. It changes perspectives, and it's a great contribution to an education. Great, thank you.